What's up, Booktube? Oh, wait a minute. Got another brew to show you. Obviously, I'm not proselytizing the use of alcohol on my channel because I rarely use alcohol on here. But if you want something that will kick your butt, try one of these. About 2 of these, you're on your way. Tastes pretty good too. It's Voodoo Ranger. Alright. But as we all know, my favorite beer comes from the Rockies. Sorry, I just had a Dumb and Dumber flashback there. This is my January wrap-up, February TBR. Now, these aren't in the order I read them. Actually just finished Star Trek IX, adapted by James Blish. Received this book in the mail from Mark over at Richardson Reads. We did a book exchange. He sent me a few more books than I sent him, but I still feel it was a fair exchange. I might be wrong. But, of course, the adventures of Spock, Kirk, the crew on the Enterprise. There were a couple good ones in here. By the way, this was published in '78. Return to Tomorrow. Basically, like I said, I don't do spoilers. They go to this planet. Everyone there has been deceased for so long, but their consciousness is encapsulated in kind of like this globe. And then they have some ideas about what they're going to do with the crew. And the one line, pure energy, spoken by Spock himself, I want to say that was in the Thomas Dolby song, Blinded, where science blinded me with science or whatever. Pretty sure it was pure energy. But oh, and there was the ultimate computer. They allow a computer to take over the controls of the Enterprise, and basically it's Kirk and this computer, and there's simulated combat and stuff like that. And you know how Kirk is, man. He's one of the greatest leaders in the history of film, television, and novels too. So and there was That Which Survives, which was basically a ghost story, but these specters could kind of change your chromosomes if they touched you. That's pretty wild. 4 stars, because I'm a Trekkie. Yeah, like Star Trek. Then there was Dune Messiah, which was part of Dunuary. I did a review on this separately. There was Dane Cobain, Mindy's book journey, Graham Quigley, and Lukash from Totally Pretentious, and we all read this. And their opinions varied. I gave it a 3.5. Felt it was a bit slow. Lukash over at Totally Pretentious probably did the best review of it. And I'm not dissing my co-hosts, I'm just saying that if you want a really good review of this for January, you should probably check his out. Or, like I said, I'm not trying to diss anybody else, but he gave the best rundown. I gave this 3.5 stars. And by the way, I'm a big Dune fan. I just didn't particularly care for this one. Then I read The Snows of Kilimanjaro and Other Stories by Ernest Hemingway. Let me check my notes. Obviously, I like Hemingway. I mentioned him several times. The Old Man and the Sea is just like one of my favorites. The simplicity of his writing style is just something that's almost unparalleled. I don't know. It worked for him. There are some other authors that pull it off. I think Louis L'Amour. A lot of people are like, oh, you're comparing Louis L'Amour to Hemingway. The writing style, yes. These guys were old school. They were kind of out there in the world doing things that other people, especially nowadays, don't do. The thing about that writing style is, I just think some people have it and some don't. They can paint that mental picture more simply than they don't need a whole lot of adjectives, adverbs, or something flashy to accomplish their goal. I don't really know how to explain that. Oh yeah, and I found out what a bugger is in the story Fathers and Sons. But I enjoyed this. It's not Hemingway at his best. There were some great stories in here, like the first one, actually The Snows of Kilimanjaro, which has to deal with the guy that he has a wound, and he's developed gangrene. You know, a lot of his stuff is kind of like that. It's about life and death, which is alright with me. Gave this 3.75. Snows of Kilimanjaro, Ernest Hemingway. Then I read The Recruit by Robert Muchamore, and I won this in Zalata's contest. That is Matilda Gothika, and she sent me these cool little bookmarks with it that she made, and I just love them. I've been a fan of hers since I've been on here, and we've had a lot of back and forth conversation, and she drew that picture of me right up there, which I treasure, and I sent her a copy of my book, which, depending on your opinions, isn't all that great. Okay, this has to do with basically underage children that are vetted and put into a system where they become spies. And James's mother passes. He goes to this children's school. Something happens. He wakes up and he's in the place where they train these kids, and it's actually pretty fascinating. And he was a smart kid. You could tell in the beginning of the book that he was wise beyond his years. So, you know, something was up with that. But I like this one. I gave it 4 stars. That's The Recruit by Robert Muchamore. I'm going with international best-selling author. Then there's The Traitor of Saigon by our very own Lucy Cruickshanks. And I read this as part of Todd and Dane's indie read-along. Even though Lucy's not technically an indie author, she's still one of her own. She's a booktuber. Her and Scott have a great channel, BookAxe. Her writing style is awesome. I loved it. Her descriptions are great. She's like a natural storyteller. But this guy, he gets a little involved and gets in over his head with some people, and he's trying to get out of it. And there's human trafficking, so he has to go try to buy someone to replace his daughter, and that's as much as I'm going to tell. I gave this one 4.5 stars. Like I said, there's a separate review of this. So. Then, last, certainly not least, maybe, you know, let me throw the cliches out there. I read Shiloh by Philip Fracassi. I want to say Fricassi, but that's a dish. And I saw this on Jason White's channel. Jason's Weird Reads. This is about two brothers that are involved in the Civil War. And they get into a situation and they basically become cursed, and it really turns downward from there. I mean, they're basically no longer human. They get an appetite for human flesh. It's pretty friggin' creepy, and I liked it. So I gave this one 4.5 stars, just because of the creep factor. It's not a very big book, but it accomplished a lot in just a few pages. So, all right, that was it for January. Now, let's get on with what I'm going to try to read in February. Pardon me. I really should quit drinking this. But I probably won't until the Reaper comes by. Alright, now, this first book I'm going to read on a dare. It was in a tag. And somebody's like, hey, why don't you read that book? I think it's actually been in 2 of my videos. Surgical Nurse by Rosie M. Banks. It was written in 1959. It sounds to me like a cheesy romance about a nurse. She was young and lovely, and she worshipped her boss, Dr. Mike. Really, Dr. Mike? Is that his last name? He was a brilliant surgeon, handsome and married. So Althea did not admit even to herself that she loved him. Okay, that's as far as I'm going to go with that. But I'm going to read this daggone thing. I've had this laying around here for years. I'm not even sure where I came to own this thing, but I'm going to read it. So whoever dared me, you know, come forward. It's probably going to be a soap opera-ish read. Then I'm going to read Shame of Man by Piers Anthony, which is, I can't remember if this is book 3 or 4 in the Geo Odyssey series. I want to say it's 3. Have not read a lot of Piers Anthony. Of course, he did the Xanth series, Golem and the Gears, whatnot. But this is about the journey of humanity from hunter-gatherers to, you know, basically not modern times that I've come across yet. I more prefer the primitive stuff as far as, you know, his storytelling goes in these books here, but we'll see how this one goes. The last one I read, which was Isle of Woman, yeah, it got a little bit too modern for me. If you get within a couple thousand years of modern times, I'm like, oh man, come on, let's keep it primitive. I really enjoy that particular aspect of humanity's rise to where we are. So, Piers Anthony, Shame of Man. Then, cheers, Dane. I have formerly The Rise and Fall of a Social Network by Dane Cobain, my co-host for Todd and Dane's Indie Read Along. I'm going to give this one a whirl. Like I said, Linda, the book lady, read it. She enjoyed it. Dane's a good writer. So I'm going to give it a whirl. And of course I got to show you his mugshot there. Then I bought this book on a recommendation from Pete over at ComfyCozyup. It's Broken Clocks by Danielle Ellen. And my best understanding of this is it's one of those once-in-a-lifetime romances. But she's recommended some really good books, and I don't normally read stuff like this, but I'm going to give this one a whirl. That's Broken Clocks by Danielle Ellen. Then here's a book that my youngest boy bought and crowed about, and I've had it laying around here for a long time. Everybody in the world's read it. And it's Nas 4A2 by Joe Hill, who is basically, you know, he's a whole lot like his dad in his interviews and stuff, so I'm going to assume his writing style is similar. I've never read anything of his, so figured it was time. So that is it. Let's make sure those don't fall off of there. Thanks for hanging around. If you made it to the end of one of my videos, thumbs up to you. And cheers. Don't forget to give this video one finger up and to like and subscribe. Man. Thanks for hanging around, everybody. Bye.